Hey there, my name's James Kramer, and I've been invited today to discuss a little bit about my collection. Grew up in a very blue-collar, lower middle-class family that was car people, and my dad's genre was pretty much 50s classics. So I grew up with a 55 Ford Crown Victoria and a 59 Ford Skyliner retractable hardtop. In high school, I had, a 68 Ford Fairlane, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I decided I didn't want to go the older route, so I went more modern, and I went from a Volkswagen Scirocco, to anybody that would know what that is, to Ford Escort at one time, which is really not impressive, but I was proud of. The first real pursuit of a car that I really had was I bought an '06 Aston Martin Vantage, which is ironic because I didn't really like it. And I went all over the board exploring things. I went from the Vantage to a 2009 Corvette Z06, and I definitely didn't like that, and I wasn't that route. I bought a 2009 Mercedes C63 AMG when it came out, and then I started to understand more about the kind of cars I liked, which was more refined but also classy and fast. In 2014, I bought a 2012 Lamborghini Aventador base model. And for any of you that have not bought an exotic car before, you don't go to a dealership and say, hey, I'd love to drive that. They don't, that doesn't happen. You kind of have to establish your credibility and be known. And so I bought this 2012 Aventador at the time for a substantial amount of money from where I'd been previously. And it was very weird to buy a car that expensive that I never even, sat in. I hadn't sat in one before, but I'd just seen them. So I bought that, and I remember the first time going from delivery of car, going down the trailer, backing out, and literally the guy has me sign, to receive it and give you the key. And it was essentially like anybody that's a parent, you get, you're in the hospital and you have your child, and that's surreal. But then when it's time to go and they discharge you, you're kind of like, really? You're going to give me this child and nobody's going to qualify me that I'm qualified to actually parent this child? And it was like that with the Aventador. They gave me the key and I was kind of like, wow, nobody even has qualified me that I know how to drive this thing or run it or anything. And so I was very paranoid for the first, few days. And then it got to the point where it was second nature, and people, like regarding this or something like that, you get to the point where it's just second nature and you're driving it just like, any car out there. From that first Aventador, I obviously really enjoyed it and got the bug, and my wife's super supportive, and my youngest daughter is also really a big fan of cars. And so I remember we went to this thing called Festival of Speed in North Scottsdale with the Aventador, and from there, then it was just kind of like, business continues to do better and you want to continue to, explore. So I went from base Aventador to Aventador SV Coupe to Aventador SV Coupe because I wanted comfort seats, and the first ones had race seats and they're very uncomfortable, to Aventador SV Roadster with race seats, to Aventador SV Roadster with comfort seats. So it's funny as I went base Aventador and then through 4 SVs. After the SVs, I then started expanding the Lamborghini collection, and I bought a 1998 Diablo SV Monterey Edition. They made only 20 of those cars. I bought a 1988 and a half white Countach 5000 QV. I bought a 2010 Murcielago SV. And I bought a 2014 Gallardo 50th Anniversario manual where they only made 25 of those guys. So at that time, my Lamborghini collection was pretty rare. They made 500 of the SV Roadster Aventadors, 186 Mercy SVs, 20 of the Monterey Edition Diablos, and 610 of the Countach 5000 QVs, and 25 of the Gallardo manuals. I've kind of found, as this is constantly, you're going to get a pattern here, that my process is just a refining process of what I like. And so I determined that I liked all these cars. I didn't love really any of them. I loved the Aventador SV, but I wanted to move from what I liked to what I loved. And everybody that has followed me on Instagram has kind of said, well, weird that you went all Lambo to all Aston Martin, and it really isn't, it wasn't like I'm rejecting Lamborghini. It's that this car I'd seen pictures of, an Aston Martin One77, and I fell in love with it visually, but it was substantially, 4 times the price of anything else I'd ever bought, outside of my budget. So I started thinking and talking to my wife, and I'm like, if I'm gonna go from what I like to what I love, this last year has been one of the best car resale markets of all time. I sold all 5 of those cars. And then I bought a V12 Vantage years ago, and it didn't do much for me. And I sold it, and then I immediately regretted it. So I found myself another V12 Vantage manual, and that has been my daily now for 12 or 18 months. And what's cool is the value of those have went up massively. So while I'm driving it daily and beating on it, it's actually holding its value or going up. Cleaned out the Lambos, bought the V12 Vantage as my daily, and started the search for this 177. If you don't know anything about 177s, the CEO of Aston Martin in 2009 went to his design staff and said, what would it look like if we actually created a car with no limitations financially, no limitations engineering-wise? What would it look like? And so that was the design process for them to make this car. And so what a 177 is, for any of you that don't know, is a carbon chassis, complete carbon tub car, with their biggest V12 sent out to Cosworth Racing, and they punched that 6-liter out to 7.3 and race tuned it, and then they hand formed an aluminum body on this car. So as you get a chance to look around this body, you normally see all cars have seams at quarter panels, seams at bumpers, and you won't see that because they literally hand formed this with aluminum and a craftsman rolling the aluminum on a wheel to make each one of these handmade. So they made 77 production cars for clients. They made about 10 prototypes, and of those 10 prototypes, I don't have the full story, but only one was sent back to the factory. So this was the original development car. This went to Geneva Auto Show, it went to Monterey, it went to Richard Branson's SpaceX launch, it went to Goodwood Hill Climb in England, and then they gave it to journalists, and they beat the crap out of it in the desert, and then they sent it to a really cold climate, I think, in Scandinavia, and beat the crap out of it in the winter weather. And then when they were done, they were like, okay, what do we do with this? And so several of the other prototypes went through crash tests. A couple of them, I think, are in museums or rebuilt in places, but not in production driving. But this one they sent back to the factory and completely rebuilt the car. So this is the highest mile 177 in existence. It has 39,500 kilometers, almost 25,000 miles. And they rebuilt the car down to everything. Rebuilt the engine, the tranny, bucket seats, repainted the car, everything. Speaking on some of the more specific things of why I like the car, before I talk about where the collection is now going next, is I have nothing against any mainstream car, but I've always been someone that kind of likes things that are a little more out of the norm or unique. And so, while I'm a personal fan of a LaFerrari, there's a lot more LaFerraris in this world than this car, and so I've kind of attracted this car for the sake of it being different. I personally feel, and I know we all have preferences about what design things we like. I think the back end of the car is probably the most beautiful back end of any car, as far as the taillight and no seams and everything. my friend Johnny Lieberman is the lead journalist at Motor Trend, and he told me prior to getting this car that he thought the interior was the best he'd ever seen. And so, again, kind of like that original Lamborghini, I bought this car sight unseen because there are none to go see or test drive. So when I bought it and I got in it, I think you'll find, if in the pictures and video that you get, that it's pretty much the most epic interior there is. The stitching is double wide stitching, so the white stitching contrasts against the black leather more significantly than most interiors. It's an Alcantara roof, but it's a leather seating, which I actually prefer that. Everyone goes Alcantara seat surfaces, and I'm not really a fan. But there, you can see the carbon tub if you look between the seat and the tub. All the trim is in a brushed stainless steel. So it's just dramatic. And if the console is very angled and swooping from the center to the back, more so than most consoles are fairly vertical inside of a car. So it has a unique sound, being that it's a Cosworth tuned V12. But I just found mostly, this car's a 2011. It's not, it's not as technical or detailed or even as performance oriented as, any entry-level supercar right now, but it speaks to me. So those are some of the reasons why I like it the most. And transitioning to, where things are going, I have a deposit down on a new Valkyrie Spider. Any of you that know anything about the Valkyrie is designed by Adrian Newey, who's a Formula One engineer, most winningest Formula One engineer out there. And this car is pretty much supposed to be the pinnacle of road legal cars. It's going to be about 2,400 pounds. It has 1,000 horsepower naturally aspirated Cosworth V12 that revs to 11,100 RPMs. And I've got a Spider, which they're only making 85 of. So I have quite a wait for that. It's probably gonna take me at least 18 months, maybe 2 years before that car comes to me. If you look at this garage, you'll get a tour of, it was originally designed for lifts. So my plan was to put 8 cars in here. And my wife is the designer of this home, which, we're just moved into and are quite excited about. And she's expressed preference for not putting lifts in. I went from kind of what 8 cars can I put in here to what 4 cars. And unfortunately for her, that means there are going to be 4 very more expensive cars than the 8 cars that would have been in here. So that's kind of the plan. After the Valkyrie, the 177 and Valkyrie will be in here. And then I have ideas on the next 2. I'll probably move my daily to a different garage and just make this a show display garage. So a couple things that I didn't mention earlier that are kind of fun details to this car is it has a pretty pronounced diffuser fins, but inside the diffuser fins is the actual quad exhaust, and it's cut inside of the diffuser. I don't think I've ever seen another car that has that. In addition, this car has a pushrod suspension, and you see it all here. The only storage in this entire car is this small little front pocket that you'll be able to see when you look back here. But there's no cup holder, there is no glove box, there is a tiny center console where you could probably get a phone and a wallet, and you got this little pouch back here which you might be able to get a woman's purse in. In the back, as you see, most cars, just like over there on the Vantage, you can see the seam of where the bumper is. There's no seams. There is this quarter panel here where the bonded aluminum of this entire piece. This is all one formed aluminum piece. Don't think you ever want to probably get in an accident. That probably would not be a good thing. But that's pretty impressive to me. The whole car is aluminum. And another of the forming here is this door is aluminum also, but every mirror you'll ever see on a car is mounted onto the door, and you simply would, undo it and you could remove this mirror. This is formed, aluminum formed into this door. It's all one piece. This mirror is part of this door. I don't know, it's pretty crazy to me. So it's also cool that the air was designed to be forced through the front bumper, and it comes in and is direct forced into the manifold, and then it has these vents here which get quite hot upon driving because it is how the car cools itself. So just a few of the details that make it a little bit more unique, in addition to the fact that it's it is what it is. So this is a 1985 Agostini Countach Jr. car. It is a 1/2 scale car. There's debate, two different details in there of how many were made, but the most common number is that there was 20 of these made. This particular one is the rarest of whether there was 20 or more than that made, as it was in the Tom Hanks movie called Big. Many of you might have seen Tom Hanks. He's playing piano with his feet on a full-size keyboard. Prior to that, you'll see that he plays laser tag inside the FAO Schwartz store in New York City, and they play laser tag around this car. So this is the actual original car that was in that movie, and it is fully functional. It has a 11 horsepower engine in the back, rear mid-engine car. I have mostly restored it. I've done the body and paint. I've done I've done leather seats and console and new carpet, and refinished the wheels, added new tires, and I have a few more mechanical details to upgrade, but these go for fairly big money in auctions, and could be worth as much as $75,000 or more to the right collector.